My own mother said I didn't belong in family photos because I'd ruined the perfect image. The whole room laughed that day, but they didn't know the same girl they mocked would one day host a wedding they'd begged to attend and regret ever rejecting. Before I continue, make sure you subscribe, like, and share this story, because what happened next will leave you speechless. It started with my cousin Emma's wedding. Everyone was invited, everyone except me. The excuse? Layla, your lifestyle doesn't fit our family image. Those words stung like a knife. I stood outside the venue that day, watching from across the street, seeing my family dressed in designer clothes, laughing, pretending we never shared the same blood. I wasn't rich like them. I didn't marry into money. I was just me, a girl who believed love didn't need a price tag. But my family didn't care about love. They cared about appearances. They called me the black sheep, the failure, the one who'd never make it big. What they didn't know was that while they were busy showing off on Instagram, I was quietly building something they could never buy. My dream. For 3 years, I worked day and night on a small event planning business. No one believed in me. My own sister laughed when I told her I wanted to plan weddings. "Who'd hire you for that?" she said, but I didn't argue. I just smiled and kept working in silence. Then came the day that changed everything. My childhood friend Ethan proposed. He didn't care that I wasn't from a wealthy family. He cared that I never gave up on myself. And when he said, "Layla, plan our wedding however you want," I knew this was my moment. I didn't want just another fancy event. I wanted something unforgettable, something that would make every single person who ever excluded me choke on their pride. I decided to invite them all, every cousin, aunt, uncle, and even my mother who once told me I'd embarrass the family. They didn't know it yet. But the wedding they'd be attending wasn't just another celebration. It was my statement to the world. And when they arrived, the first thing they saw made their fake smiles vanish instantly. Their laughter froze the moment they stepped onto the marble pathway. Golden gates, crystal lights, and a massive banner that read, "Welcome to the wedding of Layla and Ethan, the one you all said would never happen." Silence. You could feel the shock ripple through the crowd. My mother's eyes widened, her hand clutching her pearl necklace as if she'd seen a ghost. My sister whispered, "This can't be her wedding." She couldn't afford this. Oh, but I could, and I had. Before I continue, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, because what I revealed next made every single one of them question their own worth. 3 years of sleepless nights had paid off. My small event planning business had quietly exploded online after one viral video of my work got featured on a major wedding magazine. I went from planning backyard ceremonies to luxury celebrity weddings, but I never flaunted it. I kept my success hidden, waiting for this moment, my revenge in style. As my guests entered, they were welcomed by a team of staff wearing badges that said, "Layla and Comir, designed by the bride herself." Every detail, from the flower arches to the chandelier placement, screamed perfection, and not a single one of them realized until later that my own company had organized the entire event. My cousin Emma, the same one who didn't invite me to hers, walked up to me with a stiff smile. "Wow, Layla, I didn't know you could pull off something like this." I smiled sweetly. "Oh, this? Just a little side project of mine?" She blinked, confused. "Wait, you planned all this?" "Of course," I said. "After all, weddings are kind of my business now." The look on her face was priceless. Shock, jealousy, disbelief, all in one moment. My family exchanged glances, trying to make sense of what they were seeing. My mother forced a smile and said, "You've done well for yourself, dear." But I saw the cracks in her expression. For the first time in my life, she felt out of place. Then the music changed, and the spotlight turned toward me. The host announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, our bride has a few words to say." I took the mic, my heart pounding. Every insult, every humiliation, every time they told me I wasn't good enough, it all echoed in my head. I looked straight at my family and said softly, "You all once said I didn't belong in your weddings. So tonight, I decided to host my own, and make it one you'll never forget." Gasps filled the hall. Some guests even started clapping. But what I said next made everyone freeze in utter disbelief. "I didn't just plan this wedding," I said, my voice steady but sharp enough to cut through the tension. "I own the company that made it happen." For a moment, you could have heard a pin drop. My aunt, who once called me a charity case, dropped her glass. My mother's jaw tightened, her smile completely gone. I turned to the crowd and continued. "Every flower you see, every chandelier hanging above, every bite of food you'll eat tonight was created by my team. The same team I built from scratch when no one believed in me. Before I go on, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because what happened next turned the entire hall upside down." The whispers began almost instantly. "Wait, Layla owns this company? She did all this?" My cousins exchanged uneasy looks, realizing the failure they mocked was now running one of the most sought-after event empires in the city. Then Ethan, my husband, took the mic beside me. "What Layla didn't mention," he said with a grin, "is that her company just signed a multi-million-dollar deal to handle events for a global luxury brand." The crowd gasped. Even the videographer froze. My mother's face turned pale. She whispered something to my father, who looked like he wanted to disappear. My sister, trying to save face, fake laughed and said, "Wow, Layla, you really kept this a secret." I looked at her calmly. "Well, you never asked. You were too busy making sure I wasn't invited to your fancy parties." That line hit harder than I expected. She went silent. My family members started fidgeting in their seats, their pride slowly cracking apart. Just then, one of the coordinators approached the stage and whispered, "Ma'am, the surprise video is ready." I nodded. The lights dimmed, and a giant screen flickered on. The video started with old family clips, birthdays, holidays, weddings, all the moments I'd been excluded from. My voice narrated softly. "Every time they said I wasn't good enough, I worked harder. Every door they closed pushed me to build my own. And tonight, this wedding isn't just about love. It's about respect." Then the screen displayed my company's name in gold letters, followed by footage of celebrities, luxury venues, and magazine covers featuring my brand. The hall erupted in applause, but my family sat frozen, staring at the screen like it was showing their worst nightmare. And just when they thought it was over, the video ended with one final line written across the screen. "Sometimes, being excluded is the greatest gift, but the real shock wasn't the video. It was the person who walked in right after it ended." The doors at the back of the hall opened, and in walked Grace, the wedding planner who had worked with every high society family in our city, including my own relatives. The same woman my mother used to brag about hiring for her classy events. Everyone turned to stare. Grace smiled as she made her way toward me, heels clicking on the marble floor. "Layla," she said into the mic, "I think it's time your family knows the full truth. Before I continue, make sure to subscribe, like, and share." Because what she revealed next made my entire family wish they'd never looked down on me. Grace turned to face my mother. "A year ago, your daughter offered me something no one in your family ever did: respect. She didn't just hire me, she bought my entire agency." The room exploded with murmurs. My mother blinked rapidly, whispering, "You're joking." Grace shook her head. "No, Layla is now the sole owner of Grace Events, one of the biggest wedding firms in the state. I work for her." My mother's face went red. My aunt gasped. My sister looked like she might faint. I took the mic again, my heart pounding but steady. "When you excluded me from every wedding," I said, looking directly at my mother, "you made me realize something. I didn't need to be part of your events. I could build one so grand that even you would dream of being invited." Ethan placed his hand over mine, pride glowing in his eyes. "And she did," he said softly. Guests began clapping again, some cheering my name. But my family stayed seated, their pride shattered. My cousin Emma whispered to my mother, "She owns Grace Events?" "That's impossible," I smiled. "It's very possible when you stop chasing approval and start chasing purpose." The spotlight shifted to my parents' table. My father finally stood up, his voice low. "Layla, why didn't you ever tell us?" I met his eyes. Because you never listened, that silence. It was heavier than any insult they'd ever thrown. Then, just when the atmosphere felt like it couldn't get more tense, one of the servers rushed over to me and whispered, "Ma'am, the media just arrived. They're setting up outside for the interview you scheduled." My mother's head snapped toward me. "Interview? What interview?" I smiled calmly. "The one announcing the partnership between Layla and Cobors and Grace Events. It's going live tonight." The entire hall went wild. Cameras flashing, guests recording, everyone realizing this wasn't just a wedding. It was a statement. And as the doors opened for the press, my mother slowly stood, trembling, and said, "Layla, I think we need to talk." But I wasn't done yet. I turned to her, my voice calm but cutting. "You had your chance to talk years ago, Mom. Tonight isn't your moment. It's mine." Her face fell, and before she could respond, the reporter's mic was already in front of me. The reporter's voice echoed through the hall. "Layla, people are calling your story the ultimate comeback. What message do you want to give to those who once doubted you?" Every camera pointed at me. My heart raced, but not from nerves, from power. I looked straight into the lens, smiled, and said, "Don't waste time proving yourself to people who enjoy seeing you small. Build in silence and let your success make the noise. Before I finish, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe." Because what I said next turned my biggest humiliation into the moment of my life. The crowd erupted into cheers, but behind them, my mother's eyes glistened with tears, part regret, part disbelief. My father stared down, hands clasped. My sister looked away, ashamed. For years they made me feel like I didn't belong. But now, I stood before them as the woman they never thought I could become. After the interview, I walked over to my family's table. They all stood awkwardly, unsure whether to hug me or apologize. My mother finally whispered, "Layla, I'm sorry. We were wrong about you." I took a deep breath and smiled kindly. "You weren't wrong about me, Mom. You just never took the time to see me." Then I turned and walked away, hand in hand with Ethan. The crowd cheered again, and I could feel every step reclaiming the dignity they once stripped from me. Outside, reporters flashed cameras calling my name. "Layla, over here. One picture, please." But as I stood under the shimmering lights, I realized this moment wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about freedom, about knowing I no longer needed their approval to feel worthy. Later that night, when the last song played and the guests began to leave, I walked back into the empty hall. The chandelier still glowed, the flowers still smelled like triumph, and the air carried one truth I'd waited years to feel: peace. I looked around at everything I had built and whispered to myself. They excluded me from every wedding. But in the end, mine became legendary. And that's when Ethan walked up, wrapping his arms around me. "You did it," he said softly. I smiled. "No, we did it. And this time, everyone finally saw who I really am." The doors closed behind us, and with that, my story came full circle. From being the different one they laughed at, to becoming the woman they could never ignore again. Because sometimes, the best revenge is simply becoming unforgettable.